Hello everyone, Fallen Chameleon here, and today I'd like to walk you through a forge. Alright, we have three picks here: Whispering Wind, World Pyraphoenix, and Crested Runt. Crested Runt is one of the newer cards. I actually don't have any, which definitely makes me tempted to take it. One of the things I recommend with Forge is always take the cards you don't have. Forge is definitely a format that's more tailored towards newer players. You really want to build out your collection, but if we want to pick the strictly best card here, it's by far World Pyraphoenix. This card is an absolute bomb in any limited format. So if we were playing just to win, for sure take World Pyraphoenix, but I'm going to take this. It's pretty much just giving you a good example. Just build your collection. I have playsets of both of these guys. Let me talk a little bit more about the cards though. Whisper Wind is also a very good card in limited. Any kind of evasive unit is strong. Evasive means that it can attack and not be blocked very easily. Flying is evasion. And the ability to attack and discard a card to draw a higher cast card that lets you filter out situational cards, which is also very valuable in limited. World Pyraphoenix is just the strongest card here, though, because of such a strong stat line. 5/5 flying is very hard to contest. It represents a very quick clock in the air. But again, we're going to take the Runt. Alright, so here are three options. Mischief, Yeti, Renown, create and draw a snowball, Jotun Warrior, and Be Gone. Unfortunately, Be Gone loses a bit of its value in Forge, simply because we're only going to be in 2 faction. So that's one thing going against it. But as well, being just a slow speed bounce effect, it's not the greatest card. Jotun Hurler 3/5 for 5 is a very poor stat line. So I'm just going to take the Mischief Yeti. I don't know if we're going to get any kind of Yeti synergy. The Fall of Argenport previous set, you were more likely to pick up tribal synergy. I found in this one, more often we're looking for Empower synergies, and Relic is a lot of the options that are available to us. So I'm just going to take the Mischief Yeti, and that's going to commit us to Elysian. So here we have Frost Talisman. Pay 7, draw a card. It's a 2-cost relic, summon, stun an enemy unit. This is, it's really not that great of a card. 7 is a lot to be paying. It's not just it's not just a one-time cost, really. Like, it's you're committing. What I'm saying is you're committing your entire turn, really, on turn 7 to draw that card. So I don't particularly think it's very strong. Maybe if we already had enough cards that were gaining value from relics, that would be a card you would want. So let's look at the other two. Dispel, 3-cost spell, silence a unit, draw a card. This is a really good removal. Silence effects are always good. Replacing itself is good. Striped Arachnodon is a fine card, 4/4 for 4, very reasonable body. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Dispel. What this is going to let us do is, if the air has any flyers, we're going to be able to knock those to the ground. We won't be run over by that. But it's close between these two. Okay, Fledgling Avisaur. Flying Aegis, Renown, you gain an Aegis. 1/2 stat line for 3. Court Mage, 2/5 for 4 with Pledge. Calls a Huntman, 1/3 for 2 with Renown Killer. I've played with all of these cards. They're all pretty reasonable. However, Pledge I find is really, really good in Forge. You really don't want to get stuck on power against the AI. 2-5 for 4 is not really a good stat line. This would be a card that'd be more like a 1.5 out of 5 rating in draft without Pledge. But with Pledge, I would say this is actually a pretty decent pick. And we don't really have any spells or weapons right now to trigger Huntsman. So I think I'm just going to pick the Pledge. Even though this is actually a pretty decent 2-drop, I want to make sure that I have some pledges. Frost Talisman again, not that good, it's just a really expensive for what it does. Wisdom of the Elders, it's actually decent if the game goes late, but usually I try to be as proactive as I can in Forge and Limited in general. Jotun Warrior is a very mediocre 5-drop, so I'm not really happy to pick any of these. We'll take the Wisdom though. Okay, Twin Fang Cobra. 2-1 deadly for 4. Entomb, create and draw a +2 attack Viper Fang with deadly. Wind Cloak, pay 4 to give one of your units flying this turn. Amaranth Shoveler, pay 1 and exhaust to look at the top card of your deck. If it's a Sentinel or Relic, draw it, otherwise discard it. We don't have any Sentinels or Relics right now. This is just pretty hard to make this card effective and limited. Wind Cloak is actually fairly strong. It's going to allow you to get through with some of your larger ground units and break a board stall. This card, I haven't actually played with it. 2-1 deadly stat line for 4 is not very good. But being able to get another weapon afterwards with deadly has some value. I could see if we pick up a flyer, for example, we end up trading this on the ground, then the weapon can be used in the air as just additional combat damage, make another deadly blocker. So I think it's actually pretty close between these two. I think I'm going to take the Wind Cloak though. Alright, Scorpion Wasp, really good removal. Wind Cloak, or a Lumbering Gruin. Lumbering Gruin blocks, stun Lumbering Gruin. This card is pretty mediocre. 6-7 for 6 would be good on its own, but just only being able to block once and then miss the next couple of turns. This is a really premium removal card, and we're going to just take it. Initiate of the Sands, really good on turn 1. Really helps you to develop. Violent Gust is a good removal against flying units, but we already have Dispel, which can help with that. And it is somewhat situational. If you get against decks that don't really have much flyers, this can be dead in your hand. Runic Protector, 8-8 for 8 was Pledge. Again, Pledge is good, but getting to 8 power in Forge is really difficult. I have played with this card. It's not one that you're going to pick very highly. We're just going to take Initiate here. Alchemical Blast is a pretty mediocre removal. Viper's Bite, give one of your units deadly. This just costs too much for what it does. It is a little bit better in Forge, just because the AI won't play around any kind of trick. Astromancer's Compass, the 1-cost relic. Once per turn you may pay 2. Give one of your units +1/+1 this turn. This card is not particularly good. I would pick it if we already had relic synergy. We really don't. I've played with it before. It really doesn't do a whole lot for you. I'm just going to pick the Alchemical Blast. Belching Behemoth. 8 is just too expensive for what this does. Infused Guardian, 4-4 Endurance, Pledge, Empower, get a permanent +1/+1. This card is really, really strong, particularly in Forge. While actually we're on the topic, Empower synergies have been very, very good. And every time I've played Forge for this set, any kind of decks that can work with some power do really, really well. And that's another reason why I pick cards like Court Mage fairly highly compared to what I would have in maybe in prior formats. Just because when you're playing in power, you don't want to get stuck on power. You want to have extra power, if anything. So this card is really good. Ice Bow is actually fairly good as well. Someone wielded deals 1 damage to an enemy that can help you pick off various 1 health units, as well as sometimes if you have any kind of infiltrate effect, but that's not really in this set so much. So we're going to pick Infused Guardian. This card is absolutely excellent. Okay, Gathering Lights, 4 cost, spell, play 2 1/1 Wisps, then gain 1 health for each of your units. This card is pretty mediocre. Can help you against aggression if you have a wide enough board, gaining some health, get some chump blockers. It can be okay with Wisp synergy, but overall, not particularly strong. Sandstorm is fairly good, 2 cost, fast spell. You can use it against decks that have a lot of flyers, knock them out of the air, and then you can block them on the ground. Frost Wave is quite a reasonable stunning spell. 1 cost, fast spell to stun a unit, and being able to amplify for additional stuns. This can really help you in a lot of situations. One thing that you might not think of if you haven't played a lot of Limited before against the AI, if they decide to block one of your larger units with multiple blockers, you can actually stun one of them, which will remove it from dealing any damage, and then you can potentially blow out the opponent that way. But just generally being an efficient fast stun, you can time it and help you break board stalls. This is a card I have done quite well with in Forge, and I'm going to give it a pick. Alright, Backlash. Negate an enemy spell, deal 2 damage. While the deal 2 damage is nice, and you'll occasionally be able to counter a removal, this is really not what you want to be doing in any kind of limited format. It just doesn't do enough. It's not proactive. Don't pick counter spells, really. Mass Intimacy. Most of the time, this is just a worse polymorph. I've played it, I've tried it. You rarely get to amplify, and honestly, I have picked this one pretty low. It's better than Backlash for sure, and then we'll easily pick another Dispel. Viper's Bite again. We talked about this one. Pretty mediocre trick, costing 4. A little bit better in Gauntlet again, or rather Forge. Scorpion Wasp, 1/1 deadly for 1. It's an okayish card, and Archive Curator is just an absolute bomb. That's a 1/4 flying for 4, summon, silence another unit. This gives you a flying presence, a great blocker, and this is the easiest pick. Aractidon, 5/6 overrun for 7 is just not a good stat line. This would be pretty low on our picks. Pack Beast, you may play an additional power card this turn. Stat line is not great, but if you look at our curve, we could use a 2-drop. And when it comes to Empower synergies, sometimes it can help to be able to play additional card, additional power. This can also ramp you if you play it early and have multiple power. Play this on 2, play another power card. Turn 3, you'll have 4 power potentially. Ancient Bauble, you could pick this if we already had quite a bit of life gain synergy. We don't, so we'll just pick the Pack Beast. Alright, Infused Guardian, we've talked about this. This card is really good. Aractidon Egg. This is a lot weaker of an Empower card. It is good if you have it on turn 1. If you draw it after that, it can be kind of a long time before you actually get the Erectodon. So generally, I don't pick this one very highly. Sirocco Glider, 2/5, flying if you have a relic for 4. This card is actually very strong if you have the relic support for it. Compare it to, there was a set 1 card, what was it called? It's a 1/5 flying for 4, which actually saw plenty of play. This card, if you have enough relics for it, would actually be better. We don't have that kind of synergy again, and this card is really good. We're going to pick it. Humbug, 1/1 flying for 1, pretty mediocre. Awaken the Ages, this is ramp, but again, we don't really have a huge payoff for ramping. And we have Ancient Bauble. So none of these options are very good. Awaken the Ages at least does trigger our Empower. And yeah, I guess we'll pick that one. These are all really weak picks. Okay, Gruin form. Give a unit +1/+4 this turn. Fastbow for 2. This is a very weak combat trick. Does go up a little bit in value in Gauntlet and Forge again, just because the AI doesn't play around any kind of combat tricks. Disjunction, draw an attachment from your void or kill an enemy attachment. Not really that high valuable in any limited, particularly when we don't have a whole bunch of relics. So again, we have Infused Guardian, which is just a really strong 5-drop, and we'll pick that. Lucky Prospector, 1/1 Endurance for 1. Again, no relics. This isn't going to do much for us. Be Gone. Put a unit into its owner's hand. I would really like this if it were a fast spell. And again, we're not getting any value out of the influence gain. An Aerial Ace. This is a pretty mediocre 5-drop, but it does have flying. There's some value to it. We already have a pretty good number of 5-drops, though. But I think it still is a little bit better than picking Be Gone. Master Cartographer, 2/1 for 2. Summon, draw a card, and discard a card. This card is actually a really nice 2-drop. Stat line is a little bit poor, but being able to filter out a more situational card or just a high-cost card when you're in your early game or late game, discard of extra power. I like this card a lot. Initiate is also, of course, very good, particularly when we're going to have a little bit of a higher curve. So again, Disjunction not very good. It's very close between these two. And let's just consider I think we're still going to take Initiate. It is very close, though. But I think I want to take Initiate because we have all these 5-drops already. Okay, another Mischief Yeti, or a Foothills Alpha, which 2/3 for 3 is in really, really poor stat line. The Renown, again, we don't really have any ways of triggering it yet, but that's just a better option than a very mediocre 3-drop. Accelerate is completely unplayable. We have really no reason to just trade a full card just to give a unit charge. So we're going to take Mischief Yeti. Lightning Strike is pretty good removal. Fledging Avelisaur is an okay 3-drop. It gets better if you have weapons. We don't. Daze is a mediocre stun effect. We're going to take this Lightning Strike. Bold Adventurer, very good 2-drop. Master Cartographer, also a very good 2-drop. And we have Pack Beast, which is pretty good as well. Bold Adventurer is definitely a better pick as far as stabilizing against aggressive decks. And I think, given that we have a fairly strong late game as far as getting to these 5-drops, I think I'm inclined to take Bold Adventurer, just to make sure that we're able to survive early. But it definitely hurts to have both of these offered, as some of our other picks prior were very mediocre options. Wish I could take both of these. Lens of Clarity. Your spells deal +1 damage. This would be a pretty strong card if we had more damage effects like Lightning Strike. 10 the Flock. Play 3/0/1 Sheep for 2. This is kind of a card that you really need, like effects like Obelisk and Unlock Potential. It's not really something you want to get. It's just going to end up being 3 chump blockers. Not really anything you want to pick. Ancient Excavator, it's a 4/6 for 5, which is an okay stat line. Summon, draw a relic from your void. We don't have relics right now, but this is really the only playable card among those in this specific deck. Reinforced Tower Shield, 0/4 relic weapon for 2. Summon, fixes a time. This really doesn't do anything useful for us besides that. Jotun Hurler, 3/5 for 5. Not very good. And Sirocco Glider, 2/5 for 4. I'd rather pick this over yet another 5-drop, even though we don't have relics. And now we get to pick more options for the rares. Champion of Wisdom is definitely going to be the best card here. But again, I only have, well, actually one of these now. Crusted Runt. And I want to pick it for the collection. It's not too bad though. For 6 power, you can get to have a Towering Terrazon. Towering Terrazon is a good card in its own right, so you're getting an extra 1/1 charge for it. So this is a pretty good card anyway. And that's what we're going to pick. But yes, Champion of Wisdom is the best card here. Having the potential to be a 6/6 flying for 4. And just being very easy to cast 4/4 for 4 at a minimum. Stormtamer Operative is quite a good card as well. 2/3 for 2. That's Bold Adventurer's stat line. Does hurt our Lightning Strike a little bit. But yeah, we're going to pick Runt. I have playsets of both of these. Alright, that's it for forging, and I'll see you for the games.